game, don't play with my name. You come with your goals, I'm bringing my game. All of that talking just sound like a show, I'm just letting you know that I'm not entertained. You hear the crowd, they screaming my name. I got the stadium going insane. Done with the talking, it ain't no discussion. You started, I finished, put me.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to our first in-person episode of After the Ball Deflates. Today I got my bro with me, Jelani Williams.
What's up, bro?
Appreciate you coming through, man. You know, I had to come through, hear about your story, tell the world about your story, and this is my first in-person one. Y'all know I used to do this on Instagram Live, but I said, you know, time to bring it in person, and which way to better start it off than to do it at HU. So appreciate you for coming through once again, and yeah, this is gonna be dope.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to tell the story. I see you know what you're doing with your platform, so thanks for having me for sure. I'm glad to be the first person to do it in person.
All right, yeah. All right, so we're gonna start it off all the way back. So I like to get the whole story. So starting off, we're gonna talk about how was life for you growing up in the DMV?
It was cool. I actually played football first. Growing up in the DMV, you gotta play sports.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Bowie, Maryland. I moved around a little bit. Initially, I was in like Silver Springs, Tacoma Park area. Then I moved to Bowie, and I was in Bowie basically until middle school when I moved to DC. But growing up was cool. A lot of close friends that I still talk to. I went to Lake Harbor Elementary School where my mom was a teacher there, and then I went to Benjamin Tasker for my first 2 years in middle school. But growing up here was cool. It was a lot of good people, good connections, and then obviously the basketball, kind of give you a head start on the rest of the country. We're in the best area for basketball, so that's kind of when I first started getting involved, like 7 or 8 years old.
All right. So you talked about going to Benjamin Tasker. Did you play ball then? Because I know they had. I don't know if it was after me that they stopped basketball for a second, but
yeah. So it was weird. Like when I first got there, I was a sixth grader, and there was a team my first year, but they weren't allowing sixth graders to play.
Yeah.
So I would like practice with the team, go to the little open gyms, pick up stuff like that. But then I couldn't actually play with the team. And then when I got to my 7th grade year, when I was supposed to be able to play, that's when they canceled or they stopped doing sports in PG County Public Schools. So I never actually was able to play at Tasker. And then in 8th grade, I came actually to Howard University Middle School. It's a charter school.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, right on campus here. So this year been kind of like full circle for me, to be honest.
Nah, that's dope. So you talked about you started hooping around like 7 or 8. What was your motivation for starting to play ball?
I mean, it's everybody around here loves it. My dad loves basketball. My uncle actually was like him and my dad was like the first people to put a ball in my hands. I'm like 2-3 years old, so yeah. I always was watching it. Watch Kobe growing up all the time. I had a bunch of Kobe posters in my room and stuff, so I started to play it. Once I decided I didn't want to do football, I started to play basketball, do like rec leagues, county basketball stuff, and then you just fall in love with this. In my opinion, the most beautiful game in the world. So just fell in love with it from an early age.
All right. You talked about, the game is beautiful to you, so I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to hand it to you first. I'm going to ask you, what does that ball mean to you? And, like, how much does it mean to your life? How has it changed your life?
Oh, man. Basketball, has done so many things for my life. Like, got me in the doors that I wouldn't be able to get into without basketball. The schools that I've been able to go to, some of the best private school, high schools in the country, and then Ivy League school, and then now at Howard. It's given me lifelong friends, but also on the day-to-day, like, I'm just something that I'm able to do to kind of disconnect from everything else that I got going on. From having like some difficulties, or I just want to get a workout in, come in here, kind of disconnect and just do what I love for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. But this has been, the most important thing in my life, but also just, the best thing that I've ever come across that I love to do. So
yeah, for sure. So outside of that ball you got there in your hand, what other passions do you have, or do you have any outside of basketball?
Yeah, I love music. I don't make no music, but but I do love music. I like being around it, seeing people create. I like to be around creative people, listening to music, different artists. Trying to think. Honestly, I just like being around my family, being around my friends, play video games here and there. But I would say, basketball, music, and then just hanging out with my friends.
I got you. So when did you realize that you can potentially play at that D1 level? Like, when did it hit for you? Because growing up and like in the DMV, everyone on Facebook, Twitter, they used to have D1, whatever their name was,
right.
D1,
Right.
Yeah, something like that. So when did you realize that you could actually play at that the D1 level?
Yeah, this is like a little ahead in you know where I was, but I would say when I got to high school, in middle school, I was kind of just one of the guys I played for Team Takeover in middle school. So you know that's like one of the most deep AAU program in the area in terms of just talent. So I kind of was. I played with a lot of great players that ended up going to play Division I basketball. But when I got to high school, I went to Sidwell Friends, played for Coach Singletary, and that's kind of when I started to come into my own as a basketball player. Started to pick up some point guard skills. I grew a little bit, got stronger, and I started to see some success on the court individually. Outside of all the team success that I had coming up, playing for Takeover and stuff like that. And then after I say probably my freshman or sophomore year. Some schools started to recruit me a little bit, and I was like, all right, that's kind of when I started to lock in even more. Like, all right, I can play at that level, and I just been consumed with it since then, to be honest.
All right, and then you talked about going to Sidwell. How was that for you, going from the public school sector to the Howard University Middle School, and then from there going straight to Sidwell, which is a prestigious school. You have President Obama, his daughters went there. And you got Josh Hart, Sadiq Bey, your teammate as well. They went there. So, how was that atmosphere in general? Because I know a little bit because Flint Hill, we in the same conference. But just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it was way different. Like you said, I grew up in PG. I went to PG County Public Schools, and then I went to a charter school at Howard. So it was way different. Like I didn't have a black teacher at Sidwell at all. So it was like a culture shock for me, coming from something that I knew and that I was so comfortable with into an environment where it's a whole lot of white people, a whole lot of wealth, people that don't really come from where I came from, although we're all in the DMV, it's different pockets, people from Bethesda. I'd never even been to Bethesda for real. In like Northwest DC, Georgetown, that kind of thing. So it was a culture shock, and honestly, my first year, I kind of found myself a little bit, not like feeling like an outcast, but it was just different. I didn't know how to really interact with those kind of kids, different kind of kids, and it was cool. Like as I got adjusted to it, I have lifelong friends that I made at Sidwell that I still talk to, every day, every week. My high school coach, parents, like a whole bunch of people out there that I got a lot of love for. So I grew to love it, but at first it was definitely a tough transition coming from public school to go there.
Okay. Talk about was it Malia or Sasha? Or both of them?
They both were there when I was there. Yeah.
Was one of them in your class? Or was she younger than you?
Nah, so Malia was a year older than me, and Sasha was 2 years younger than me. She was my little brother's grade.
Okay. Was it like crazy security around campus?
Like the perimeter was always secure, and you could see the Secret Service around, but it wasn't like they wasn't really on them like that. But you could tell where they were. Like they would be within a hallway or something like that, just to make sure that everybody was safe. There wasn't nobody kind of coming on campus to do nothing crazy. But yeah, no, it was cool. They real cool people, very down to earth. So good experience.
All right. So talk about what made you pick Sidwell in a conference that doesn't really get too much love, and then coming from this area, a lot of people they go towards the WCAC. What made you choose Sidwell rather than going to like the DeMatha, O'Connell, schools like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing that you gotta understand is like Sidwell is probably a top 5 high school in the country academically. And both my parents were educators. My dad was a public school principal in DC. My mom is now the deputy chief of content and curriculum for DCPS. So for me, at a really young age, I was always stressed the importance of academics. And so when Sidwell kind of started recruiting me, it was like, all right, like that's definitely an option because they have all the prestige in terms of academics. And then honestly, and this is kind of like a theme for me. As I grew up and made decisions in basketball, I always wanted to go somewhere where I felt like I was needed, where I felt like the coaching staff really believed in me and I wasn't just, one of the guys. I feel like I was getting recruited by other WCAC schools, but nobody that I felt like, said, Jelani, we need you to come play here. Like, we want to build this around you. We want you to be a big part of what we're trying to do here. And I felt like from the first time I met Coach Singletary, the first time he saw me play, that was just the vibe I got from him. Like, I felt like, he would take me around campus, take me out to lunch, talk to my parents, call me all the time, and it was really something where I felt like, all right, this dude, sees my potential, but he also values me as a person. And I just felt like it was the best opportunity for me to grow. So that's why I chose Sidwell.
Okay. You talked a little bit about it. How was the academic side? as far as because, like you said, I came from that PG County public school system too, and then I came over to Flint Hill, and when I tell you it was a culture shock, and like the pace in which the class was going, I had to go to the learning center. I don't know if y'all had that at Sidwell, but yeah, I had to get some extreme help because I was behind.
Yeah, no, it was difficult for sure. I going through, the public school system and then coming to Howard and then going to Sidwell. Like before I got to Sidwell, I never really had to study. I kind of was naturally smart. I was blessed with educators and teachers, like I said. So I was like always the smart kid growing up. Mm-hmm. And then when I got to Sidwell, it's like everybody's a smart kid. So it was very different. I had to learn how to like build better study habits. I had to learn how to like really engage with my teachers and make sure that they knew I was applying myself so that, in the instant that I do need help, like they'll be willing to help me out because they know I was, I'm doing my best. Yeah, for sure. But it was definitely difficult. I learned a lot about, what it takes to kind of succeed in that kind of environment academically, but my first year was very challenging for sure.
Nah, for sure. So now over to the basketball side of things. How was it for you basketball wise and as far as competition and then also with recruitment wise? So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like you said, Josh Hart was at Sidwell. He was a senior and I was in 8th grade. So he actually was one of the reasons I ended up going to Sidwell. I talked to him in the 8th grade when I was trying to pick a high school, and he kind of told me about, the way he was able to grow at Sidwell under Coach Singletary to become one of the better players in the area, end up going to Villanova. And as he was leaving, I think they had like 6 seniors or something like that. So it was an opportunity for me to step in as a freshman and kind of, play a lot of minutes and, be able to kind of have my growing pains and stuff like that in a place where, you're not at the mat to where if you're not as good for a year, everybody's so it was cool. I think, when I first got there, the program wasn't in the best place. Mm-hmm. I think we had like 4 guys that had played varsity before, not including myself. Okay. And that first year was difficult. Like we won like 4 or 5 games. We were terrible, if I'm being honest. It was tough. We the conference is a little bit underrated. Like the MAC is pretty good at basketball, especially as of late the last couple of years.
Back then, that's when we had like St. James, the coach from Montrose came over there, and they was like a powerhouse. They was beating up on everybody. Yeah. They beat us first game. We played them by 40, and then we played them in the MAC championship. And it was a little bit closer.
Yeah, St. James definitely had a lot of guys. But no, it was cool. It was a good learning experience. I was able to come in and play point guard as a freshman, which I hadn't done before high school. Like I was, I was a wing, kind of like shooting guard kind of thing. And I got to Sidwell and they were like, "Nah, we want you to play point guard." So I was able to kind of sharpen my skills, my point guard skill set, work on my passing ability, which is one of the better things that I do now. And that's kind of really where I grew the most. Honestly, we took a lot of losses, but my freshman and sophomore year, like that was where I grew a lot. And then, as it continued into my junior senior year, we ended up being one of the better teams in the area.
Okay. So I believe it was your senior year where you had an ACL injury. So talk about that, and when did you know that you had that pop or whatever that instinct was in your knee when you was like, "Dang, it hurt"?
Yeah. So, man. So rewinding a little bit, junior year, like I said, freshman and sophomore year was difficult for us. We were competitive, but we weren't able to win. My junior year, we lost in the MAC championship game. We lost to St. James actually at Sidwell, and then we had a really good summer going into my senior year. Played in the different summer leagues around the area, the math and summer leagues, stuff like that. We had some good showings, and then going into my senior year, we had a pretty good team. I think we were ranked 4th or 5th in the Washington Post going into the school year. And we had a pretty good non-conference schedule halfway through the year. I want to say like 9-3 or something like that. And over Christmas break, we have a practice day after Christmas. This is 2016. We come in, we're going really hard. We had like 3 or 4 days off. And we were coming off a loss, so we're going really hard in practice, getting up and down, and we're in like the 3-on-2, 2-on-1 drill, transition drill. And I'm running. I'm ahead of the defense. I'm offense, and one of our younger guys, one of the guys on JV, throw a pass up to me up the court. I jump up and catch it. When I come down, my left knee just immediately buckles. I go straight down. yelling. I had never felt no pain like that before. I had like, broken bones and stuff, but never, any ligament damage, anything like that.
Yeah.
And for me, that was really difficult. Like the whole time I'm, on the sideline. Once the swelling goes down, you feel kind of okay. You can kind of move around a little bit, but I knew something wasn't right. And then I ended up going to the hospital that night. They did x-rays. X-rays came back negative. Then I had to go back to do an MRI the next day. And then within like 2 or 3 days, I had the results that I tore my ACL, and that I would be out for a year. So basically, that was like the end of my high school career, unfortunately, and that was really tough for me, honestly.
Yes, I was going to talk about that. How was that for you mentally, knowing that that was the end of your high school career, and knowing that senior year was coming up, and then your recruiting process and stuff like that. How was that for you? And was you afraid about your recruitment process and like, man, nobody's going to take a chance for me, or people gonna give up on me because I got this injury?
Yeah, so fortunately, I actually committed before my senior year started.
Okay.
So like the day before school started my senior year, I committed to Penn, where I did my undergrad. And once they heard about the injury, head coach over there, they had always, like I said, I like to go to places where I felt like I was needed.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was the situation at Penn, and they called me, reassured me, your spot is still here. Like, we're gonna get you healthy. You'll be back stronger. And you're gonna have a good career here still. So I wasn't really worried about the recruitment. I was honestly more disappointed about the season being over for me. Like I said, my junior year we lost in the championship, and to come from where my freshman year we won 4 games, the ultimate goal for me was to win a MAC championship. My senior year, which we eventually did without me, but it was difficult. Like I felt like all my goals that I had individually and as a team kind of was gone in that moment. And so as a young kid, like growing up in the DMV where basketball is like the big thing, that was definitely difficult for me. At the time, it felt like the end of the world. Little did I know, it would get a little crazier. But at the time, that was really tough for me.
So you talk about that senior year, your team winning the championship without you. How did it feel being on that bench, going through that whole run with them, knowing that, dang, I can't be out there with my brothers? Yeah,
it was difficult, but we had a really special group of people, and they kind of kept me up through all of it. I think it was, my teammates were like my brothers. We did everything together. Sidwell is a really small school, so there's not really much space to be like cliquey inside of a team. So we would go to get food every day together. We sit together, hang out with the same people, go to the same parties, like that kind of thing. So I knew that they could tell that I was kind of struggling mentally with it. And they picked me up every day. They really competed. Like everybody picked up their level of play. And so while it was difficult for me to watch, and I kind of lost myself in coaching and like trying to help them as much as I could from the sideline, tell them what I saw, and just really kind of continue to just give what I could, even though I couldn't do it physically. But to see them win was gratifying. I love winning championships. I was able to hang a banner, which I think hadn't been done there in like 4 or 5 years. So that was exciting. And it's always great to win a championship, but it was definitely, kind of like a bittersweet feeling for them to win it without me.
Okay. So now we're gonna move the story along. Your freshman year at Penn, you get to Penn. Was you still injured at the time, or? Okay.
Yeah. So my freshman year, so I had surgery January of 2017.
Okay.
Which is like basically halfway through the season. And ACL recovery is like a full year recovery basically to be cleared to play. And so when I got to school, I still wasn't cleared to play live. I was probably like 7 or 8 months removed from surgery. So I was getting there, but I wasn't able to play immediately. So kind of from the beginning of the year, my plan was to redshirt because I didn't get cleared eventually until like halfway through my freshman season. And we also had, some like older guards and stuff like that. So I kind of just wanted to get healthy and learn as much as I could from them my freshman year. And that's basically what I did. I practiced with the team every day, learn the sets, learn the offense, that kind of thing.
All right, so that freshman year coming in, you going through all of that, sitting on the bench, once again going through that process, going back to your room, those lonely nights. Talk about how I felt mentally going back to the room during those lonely nights and knowing that, man, I'm still not being able out here to compete with my brothers and go to battle with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's like injuries are so weird because they're difficult because you're really going through it by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, even though you have people around you and your physical therapists and your parents and your friends and family and stuff that are supporting you, nobody's in those PT sessions but you, really. Nobody's like, you know, nobody's doing any of that stuff but you. Nobody's sitting out. Everybody else is playing. And so it can get lonely at times. I'm the type of person, like, I was always a people pleaser. I kind of try to make people see what I want them to see about myself. So, like, you know, none of my teammates, I don't think, really could tell that it was bothering me. We had a good team. We ended up winning the championship that year, again, my freshman year. And so, you know, I kind of just tried to bring positive energy to the team, learn as much as I could. But it was difficult. Like, you know, you go home some days and it's like, damn, like, I still can't play. I probably got 3-4 months ahead of me still before I can play. And then coming back from the ACL, you got a whole ramp-up process where now I got to get in shape. Now I got to, you know, tighten my stuff back up. So it really was difficult, like, to take a full year off of something that I love, and then still have those roadblocks coming back, trying to, you know, get your body back up to speed. It was tough. It was tough.
Got you. So now we're gonna move forward to, you know, that sophomore season. You bounce back from that injury, you get cleared, and then something happens again. To talk about that.
Yeah. So freshman year ends. We win the championship. We go to the tournament. We play Kansas in the first round. Lose to Kansas. Gave them a good game though. And then basically I locked into myself that whole summer. Like, I was like, you know, getting my body back right, getting my wind up, making sure I was tightening up my jumper, things like that. And I worked really hard, like harder than I ever did that summer, going into my sophomore year. We had our foreign tour that summer in Italy, played 3 games out there, actually 4 Penn, played pretty well. And so I was pretty encouraged going into my sophomore year. My coach was saying, you know, we want you to come be the starting point guard basically as a sophomore. And so, you know, that was what I was working towards every day. And then towards the end of the summer, 4th of July week, I'm up on Martha's Vineyard where I vacation with my family and friends every summer. And I'm playing in a charity game at the local court, like the local court on the island. And, you know, just going through the motions, having fun.
Yeah.
And I go up for a layup and get fouled, and I don't get off the ground. My right knee buckled. And that turned out to be my second torn ACL. And that one was the toughest one, if I'm being honest.
That was the toughest one?
Yeah, physically, mentally, everything. That was the toughest one for sure.
Okay, so we're gonna get into that. So, you know, that other injury, same ACL, same one?
It's the right knee. So
the right knee, okay. So, you know, the right knee ACL injury, you know, you're going through the same thing again. Now, what was going through your mind this time, knowing that, all right, I just came back off of this one, just the left one. Now I think, you know, I'm putting in work, I'm grinding. I'm out on vacation having a good time. Like, you're not thinking anything of no injury. You just out there having a good time playing in the game. And then, like you said, that happens. So what was going through your mind mentally, you know, once that happened and then the whole rehab process?
Yeah. Initially it was denial. Like, I didn't believe it. You know, like I said, I was on vacation, so I didn't end up seeing the doctor for like another 3-4 days when I got home. So initially it was like denial. Like, I felt that pain before, so I kind of know in the back of my mind that that's what happened. But my dad called me. I'm telling him, you know, I'm good. Like, you know, I'll be all right. I think I just tweaked it a little bit. Like, you know, I'm gonna ice up and, you know, take a couple of days off. I'll be fine. And so I'm just basically in shock. Like, I'm not even paying it no mind. And then I get home and I go see the doctor. They do the MRI, and I get the news. I think the next day I get the news. I just broke down. I broke down. That was the toughest year of my life by far, like, without question. To this point, that was the toughest year of my life. I was depressed, honestly, for lack of a better word. I kind of went into myself. I cheated the rehab process. Like, I let everything that was going on with me mentally kind of affect the physical aspect of it. And I didn't attack the rehab the way I needed to. I was skipping days. I was skipping practice. I was skipping lifts. Like, I just wasn't in the right headspace. Like, I wasn't, and when you're injured, you have to be in the right headspace.
Not for sure.
Or else you won't get back. But I wasn't even close to the right headspace, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I'm still young. I'm 18, 19 years old. at the time, I don't know how to deal with my emotions. I don't know how to handle that much adversity. That was the most adversity that I felt. And it came at the worst possible time where I'm feeling good. I'm back to 110%. And I, hit the same roadblock. And I know that, I got another year of rehab in front of me. And that was dark, bro, honestly. That was dark. Yeah.
So you talked about before, you like to be like a people's pleaser. You don't really want to show no emotions, or you don't want to show any signs of a weakness when you're going through something. You said you was depressed, but did anyone else see that depression on you? Did anyone notice? Or was you just so, did you become like not a perfectionist, but like what's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna say perfectionist, but to perfect it
was a facade.
Yeah, the facade.
It was
that's
facade.
What
it was. I don't think anybody knew. If I'm gonna be honest, I'm sure they knew that.
Not even like your parents.
Nah, like when I ended up telling my parents a little while later in the story, we'll get there, but they had no idea what I had been going through. Honestly, like I said, I was the type of person to kind of keep it close to myself, and like I said, I was skipping stuff. So like days where I would wake up and I wouldn't feel good, like I wasn't in the right mental space to contribute what I could to the team. I just wouldn't go. Like I called coach, yo, I'm gonna do PT today, and then I'm gonna be home. Like I don't want to do it today. So every time they did see me, I was, I'm myself. I'm laughing, I'm joking, I'm dapping everybody up. I'm, trying to be engaged and contribute what I can. But I did what I could to kind of shield it from everybody else and kind of try to deal with it myself, which wasn't the best, the best thing to do.
Yeah.
But that was kind of just what I had become used to at that point.
All right, so if you could pick the ball up and then hand it to me, and as you see, that ball is out your hand. And when you was going through, those injuries and those setbacks, you didn't have the ball in your hand. What was life like without that basketball?
It was difficult. Like I said earlier, that was kind of my escape from everything. If I had a tough week at school, or I'm having girlfriend issues or something like that, there was always a basketball that I could fall back on. And then I lost that for a couple years, and it was difficult. I didn't really know what else that I had to fall back on. I didn't really have any other options at the time. I would go home and I would chill, and I would wait for my teammates to get home, and they were able to kind of bring me, some joy, play 2K, whatever, get food. That was kind of what ended up being my release, was being able to hang out with my friends and, get the recap of the day's practice or that kind of thing. But when basketball, wasn't really an option for that, that year stretch, it was tough. I think I lost myself, if I'm being honest.
Okay. So without that basketball, you said you felt like you lost yourself. What did you do to try to keep yourself going? Did you end up, getting like a job on the side or anything like that, or just focusing straight on rehab?
So it wasn't until later in the story that I did end up finding other things to do. But like I said, that second ACL tear, that was like straight darkness, seriously. I didn't have anything else to do. I would do school, PT. I didn't know what else to do with myself. All my teammates, my friends, the dudes I hang out with, my brothers, every day are at practice from 3 to 7. So I'm in the house by myself, you know what I mean? I'm trying to find ways to distract myself, watching TV shows and stuff like that, eating. I started picking up weight. But seriously, I really didn't have anything else, seriously.
Okay. So after that injury, the whole rehabilitation, you said another year. So then here comes your junior year. What went on, or what took place during that junior year as well? Because, like you said, we didn't talk about this in the beginning, but your first game was your senior year. So just talk about that junior year and what happened, what transpired.
Yeah. So honestly, my junior year was the turning point.
Okay.
Like I said, I had gone through, I was in a pretty dark place. I rushed my rehab. I think I got cleared to play 8.5 months out of surgery, which is way too early. But I was so eager to just get back into basketball because that was what I wanted to do, that I jumped right into it. I was playing pickup. I wasn't taking care of my body. I was trying to ramp up and make up for the time that I lost doing 2-3 workouts a day. And I re-injured myself at Penn this summer going into my junior year.
Was that another ACL injury?
Yeah, so the same knee, my right knee. I'm working out with one of the guards who was a senior my freshman year at Penn.
Okay.
We're just doing, basic skill workout. This is probably my second workout of the day. And I plant to go between my legs, move it. I've done 1,000 times before. And it just bent. It buckled again. And I felt it for the third time. And, that one I knew exactly what it was. I didn't yell. I didn't.
So like no emotion?
No emotion. I went down. I was quiet. I got up by myself. I had a brace on. I took my brace, threw it across the gym, and I walked to the treatment room. And I got ice. And my head coach calls me. He's like, "Hey, I just heard. Are you okay? What happened? Blah, blah, blah." And I felt like I was letting him down. So at the time, I didn't even tell him like that I knew what happened. Like I kind of was like, I don't know. Like it didn't feel good. I think I need to get it checked out, but we'll see. And then the next morning, I get an MRI. That comes back that I tore my ACL, my meniscus again, which was the third time. And at that point, you kind of got some decisions to make.
Yeah.
And so basically, I just went home. My junior year, the first semester of my junior year, I told my coach, like, "Coach, I gotta get away. Like, I gotta get away from this environment. I can't watch another year of practice. I can't watch another year of games. Like, I gotta go lock in on myself and figure out, one, if I even want to do this anymore, and two, like, if I am going to do it, like, how can I do it and make sure that, I give myself the best chance of not getting re-injured." So I just removed myself. Like, I took a semester off, withdrew from school for that fall semester my junior year, went home, lived with my mom and my dad, got a job. This is when I started to, get into other things. I worked at the United Nations Foundation, doing nonprofit work with Curl Up, which is like a nonprofit centered around gender equality and stuff like that. So I was able to kind of occupy some of my time with that. I got a new physical therapist, and honestly, I went to start seeing like a mental therapist and talk through all my stuff. Over that couple of months, I kind of reconnected with God, and it was a whole transformation process for me coming back home that semester that really got me over the hump. To be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely proud of you for getting that help, because, like you said, not one injury, not two injuries, but three.
Yeah.
And just going through that and knowing that you went through that, I don't know how anyone else would probably get through that. So you definitely strong, for going through that and getting through it. I always tell people it's not about what you go through, it's about what you grow through.
Exactly.
Because you could always, everyone's going to face obstacles every single day, but it's the fact that, are you going to come out that storm the same person you was before, or are you going to come out like a complete different person? And to see that you took that process, it took 3 injuries for, to realize that, but as long as you realize that and came to that, that point where you're like, all right, I need some help, I need to get my relationship stronger with God and just become like a better man, because at the end of the day, that's the difference between a boy and a man. Once you're able to identify those weaknesses you have in your life and then find a way to control it and get that help. So
yeah, no, appreciate it.
Sure.
Appreciate it. It was that was a difficult time, but honestly, like, that was something that I'm grateful for now. Like, I feel like that semester that I took off at home, I really grew up. I think I was approaching everything as like a kid. I was like, before that, I was getting so down, and I think I was so depressed because I was always the type of person like, I'm gonna set these goals. I want to come in and I want to win Ivy League Rookie of the Year, and then I want to win a championship, and I want to, be this player, and I want to do this off the court, and I want to, you know what I mean? And as those things weren't happening, I just kind of kept going lower and lower and lower. And then I got to a certain point where it was like, all right, like, I can't control none of this stuff. So I got to figure out what I can control. And part of that was my approach to the rehab, my environment, where I was doing, what I was around, what I was surrounding myself with, what I was putting in my body, like all that kind of stuff that I just had to kind of take control of. And it ended up getting me over the hump. Like, it made all the difference for me.
yeah, for sure. And then you talk about, like you said, you went home, you removed yourself from that whole environment. And to remove yourself from basketball is hard. Like, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I did it my senior year at Flint Hill. Me and my coach, we wasn't on the same page. I stopped playing in the middle of the season. Like, it was hard. I was at the table with my parents. I was like, I felt like this coach don't believe in me anymore. I can't do this. And they was like, we don't quit in this family. Like, we keep going through. And I'm like, Nah. Like,
Yeah.
one thing about me, I know my worth, and when somebody else doesn't realize that worth, it's like, what more can I give you? You don't believe me, so I gotta step away, and that was the hard part. So for you to step away, come home from that, and then you gotta tell all your friends, like, yeah, bro, I'm not in school at the moment. Like, that was hard for me to do. I called my two best friends. I'm like, bro, I quit playing ball. They said, what? What did you?
Yeah.
What you mean you quit?
Yeah.
I said, bro, I couldn't do it. So how was your family? How was your friends once you told them you didn't quit? But how was your friends and family knowing that, hey, I'm back home, I removed myself, I'm not in school, and I'm just working?
Mm-hmm. So the crazy part about that stretch for me was everybody expected me to quit.
Oh.
Like, I want to say when I came home that summer, going into my junior year, going into my third ACL surgery, and everybody had heard that I had tore my ACL the third time. People calling me like, hey man, we knew the ball was going to stop bouncing at some point. Like, keep your head up. You're going to be able to do all this other stuff in life. And I hadn't made that decision for myself yet.
Yeah. How did it feel hearing that like people was giving up on you, people that you probably cared and had so much respect for, knowing that they basically saying,
So, yeah. No, that hurt. I'm not going to lie. It was, something that I had always worked towards my whole life. It was like, all right, I want to be a Division I basketball player. I want to get a free education. And I want to play. Like, I want to play. And I felt like I had been robbed of that. And I wasn't willing to accept it because I knew in that second rehab process, I cheated myself. Like, I didn't put everything I had into the rehab process. My mind wasn't right. And so in turn, my body wasn't right. Like, I couldn't get right. So basically, when I decided to take the semester off, it was like, all right, I'm gonna do this one last time right. I'm gonna do it the right way. I'm gonna show up every day to PT. I'm gonna work my ass off, excuse my language.
nah, you good.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna really put 100% into it. And if it doesn't work and I get hurt again, then that's it. I gave everything I had to it. And I can live with that. But me personally, I knew that I hadn't did everything that I needed to do to get back healthy. And so I just wanted to go home and do everything that I needed to do and give myself the best chance at being healthy. And so when I came home and people were like, yeah, like, you gonna quit, like what you gonna do, blah, blah, blah. Kind of like, oh, like I already did 2 of these. Like, like I can, like, you know what I mean? Like, I know what I gotta do. It's just a matter of being able to do it. And so that was difficult for me to hear that, but it also kind of like, I'm a competitive person by nature. And so it kind of like, it's like, all right, like, I'm gonna be back. Like, don't worry about it. I'm gonna be back. So it was like, it was tough, but it's sometimes like, at the same time, that's other people's limits. You know what I mean? That's one thing I learned from this was like, everybody thought I was gonna quit, but like they think, oh, that would be too much for me. You know what I mean? But I felt like I could get through it. I felt like I knew enough about the process to get through it one last time, and so I wasn't at my limit yet. So that was kind of like where I was mentally, and it kind of like, it honestly shut me off from everybody else in a good way. Like, I understood that, like, all right, nobody's gonna understand why I'm doing this again, but I know that I can do it again, and I know that I got my family and my people behind me that are gonna, be behind me. And so I basically kind of was like, all right, bet I'm gonna just lock in on myself, take these couple months, and come out of this a whole different person. And that's what I did.
Okay. So now, here's a question that I have. So as far as like your scholarship is concerned, for you to pull yourself away from the team that junior year, did that mess up like eligibility and like your scholarship? Like when you came back, did they have to give you like a new scholarship or?
So another hidden blessing in this whole process, the Ivy League doesn't have athletic scholarships.
Oh.
So
with academic.
So it's need-based financial aid. That's what they call it. So when I got it, basically when the Ivy League coach recruits you, he says, we don't have scholarships, but I'm going to offer you a spot on the team, which means like if you can get in, and we'll help you get in, but if you have the grades and the test work to get in, you'll be on the team, basically. And so coming from Sidwell, and I did pretty good on the SAT and stuff, like I had the grades, I had the test work to get in, but I wasn't on scholarship, like nobody is, but you get financial aid to help pay for it. So basically, they couldn't take that away because it's not an athletic scholarship. You know what I mean? So
I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, like I'm gonna take an academic leave. I'm gonna take my, this semester off, which plenty of kids in the Ivy League do. The Ivy League is like a really stressful environment.
Oh yeah, I already know. Like the expectations.
Yeah.
I didn't even say sky high. Like it's like beyond the sky.
Yeah. So I basically, did what a regular student would do if they were struggling with something, which is, take a semester off, and I basically extend my graduation track. So I did my undergrad in 5 years instead of 4 years. You know what I mean? So I took off a semester my junior year, basically stretched my degree out so that I would finish at 5. So I went back to school. You just have to you don't have to reapply, but you basically have to request re-entry, basically. So I did my couple months, came back, and kind of attacked it, and then funny enough, COVID hit like a couple weeks later. But
I forgot all about COVID.
Yeah, yeah, but no, it was cool. It wasn't no complications with that.
Okay, I was about to say because 3 injuries, and then you got that setback.
Yeah. If I had went somewhere with scholarships, they probably would have took my scholarship.
Then it's like, dang, now I'm this. Like something that's really out of my control. Don't have nothing to do with my body. Don't have nothing to do with my playing skills. It's the world, the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, dang. Yeah. You say you didn't have no problem with that.
No, yeah, I was fine.
But that gave you some more time to rehab, though, right?
Yeah. So honestly, another kind of hidden blessing in all this is like, so moving through, I go back to school in the spring of my junior year. I'm there for probably a month and a half, somewhere around there. And then COVID hits, they send everybody home. So I kind of just went home. At this point, I kind of used to being back home.
Yeah.
So I go back home, it's a little different. I'm with my brothers and stuff. I can't really leave the house. And then basically like you go through, I don't remember what it was, like 6-8 months where everybody was locked down and then everybody goes back to school. But the Ivy League was the only league canceled that following season. So
I remember that.
Yeah, so I'm going into what should have been my first year playing. I'm healthy. I had more time to rehab. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to play. And the Ivy League canceled the season, so it was another year that I had to wait to play, which is why it ended up being such a long time in between my last 2 games. But yeah, so I literally missed 4 years straight of basketball.
Right. And then senior year comes around, and then you was good from the beginning of the senior year to the end, right?
Yeah.
So tell the people how many days was it between your first game and then your last game?
Yeah, so my last game at Sidwell was in December of 2016. My first game at Penn was November of 2021. So it was 1,789 days in between competitive games for me.
No ball.
No basketball. Under the whistle, and no official basketball.
Mm-hmm. So coming back from that, like you said, about 1,700 days, no basketball, no official, hooping. Now that you get back senior year, how was that for you knowing that I'm good to go now? Like the doctors cleared me. I'm extra clear because of COVID.
Yeah.
So how was that coming back, and finally being able to play?
It was cool, man. I had fun. You know what I mean? Like that was something that it was honestly like the first couple games I felt like crazy. Like I couldn't even believe I was back playing because it had been so long. Like we opened up the season at Florida State, packed crowd, like fans wild. So I'm looking around like, damn, like I really made it back. Like, you know what I mean? I couldn't believe it. Everybody around me's like,
you feel like a kid at the
candy store. Yeah. Everybody around me's like, oh, congratulations. Like, I'm getting press. I'm in the ESPN and the Athletic and all these articles and stuff like that. But me personally, I was like, I'm in like a fever dream. Like, I'm like, bro, like, I'm getting on this plane to go to Tallahassee, and then we got a game at George Mason the next day, and then playing at Bucknell. So I'm, in the season, things like bang, 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 bang. Every day, you ever got a game or practice pretty much. So it was cool. It was exciting. Like I was glad. I was glad that my family could come back and watch me play. Like that was something that kind of kept me going through all of it too. It was like, nah, like I want my parents and my little brother to see me play in college.
Yeah.
So getting them to come back and see, and I had a pretty good season. We fell a little short of our goal, but it was a good year to kind of get my feet wet, get my legs under me a little bit, get some college experience. And then, it was dope. It was dope. I was grateful for the year.
I feel that. Because I remember, when you came back and all the press that you was getting and things of that sort, and I was just like, I'm proud of you, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you did it. Like you said, a lot of people would have gave up, but you stuck with it. So that's the true definition of, like, resilience and, like, perseverance. Like, you did it. So, how was senior night for you?
Senior night was pretty emotional. What's crazy is you asked me earlier if I played the whole season through. In February, I actually broke my finger.
Oh.
So we're actually in the middle of a run. Like we won like 5 or 6 straight in the league, tied for first place. We're playing Harvard at home, and I dive on the floor for the ball, and the dude jumps on basically on my back. My finger, you just kind of see it right here. My pinky snaps and goes out to the side. I had surgery like a couple of days after that, and I was out for like 4 weeks, I think. Basically, I should have been out for the season. We get to senior night. I kind of tried to play, but they didn't let me. So I didn't play senior night actually, but my whole family was there. All my people came out to support, whatever. So that was cool. It was like annoying that I couldn't play, but it was still, cool to see everybody. And then I came back a little early for the Ivy League tournament. Basically, I wasn't gonna miss that. Like that was like my goal. And I was like it was probably a week out from actually being cleared to play, but the doctor kind of gave me the nod, so I ended up playing. But yeah, it was cool. Seeing it was dope. Being able to like bring my little brother out and have my mom and dad and uncle who, my uncle who put the basketball in my hand at a young age. Them walking across the court with me and getting, the flowers and the jersey and everything. That was dope. It was a good experience.
Okay, now we're gonna talk about graduating from Penn, which is like I said, another prestigious school. So you go from Sidwell to Penn, graduating from there, and then coming to the historic HBCU that we know, Howard University, like another prestigious school. So what went into your decision to come to Howard?
Honestly, the coaching staff. I saw I had watched a little bit of Howard actually over the course of the season because we were supposed to play them, and then our game got canceled. Because a couple of the guys on the Howard team had COVID. But I remember watching a couple of their games. I'm like, okay, kind of like how they play. I knew Howard had success, and I knew they were building towards success. And I basically, Coach Blakeney, the head coach here, he was like the first person to call me when I put my name in the portal. And he told me like it was a similar situation to Sidwell and Penn, like, yo, we need you. Like, love the way you play, love your competitiveness, love how smart you are on the basketball court. And we want you to come here and be a major part of trying to build a championship program. We want you to come be a part of it. I'm gonna let you play. And I felt like, I was gonna be coming home. Obviously you see the Jordan logo. They got, Howard's kind of turning it up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So I felt like it would be, and so I just felt like, it would be cool to come back home, try and hang a banner, which hasn't been done since '92. Be a part of like a special like historic group. And the coaches, kind of sold me that. I came and visited, loved the guys on the team, and I just felt like home. I had the best opportunity to be successful, to play a lot, to win, and it was wraps for me. I took one visit, and then so.
All right, now here's a real question. So going from Sidwell, diverse community, UPenn, diverse community, and then you at the chocolate factory. you had Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You at HBCU. How has that transition been back to like being home, around your people?
Yeah, no, it's definitely different, but I've loved it honestly. Like being like I said at Penn and at Sidwell, I didn't really have any black teachers. So to come back here and like all my teachers, all the administrators are black, like people that look like me, people that can relate to where we come from.
Yeah.
Everybody's super friendly. Everybody walking around with their best fit on. Like everybody, you know what I mean? Like it's just a different kind of environment. And I feel like it's been great so far. Like we'll see how the season goes. But I'm excited, man. I think it's gonna be a good year. I'm obviously just getting into it right now, but it's been great so far. Like I love being back home, and I love being out.
Yes, sir. But I know we get HU, but I'm a VSU alumni, Virginia State University. I had to throw that out there, but I show love to all HBCUs. But this is dope. And then, like you said, the sponsorship with Jordan, that's top notch. Like we were talking about earlier, the only other school that in the city that's sponsored by Jordan is Georgetown.
Right.
And I think y'all about to kind of like take it up a notch because you know what I'm saying. HBCU, we only got one way to do it, and that's a high level.
Exactly.
So what's one thing that you're looking forward to this season, individually and then as a team?
Individually, I'm excited to play Hampton. We play at Hampton. That's, Howard Hampton rivalry. Everybody knows about that. But my parents actually met at Hampton.
Okay.
And my grandfather, who passed when I was in high school, was the football coach at Hampton for, I don't even remember how many years, a long time though. And so going down there and playing to have my family there.
I'm gonna be down there. You know, I live down there now, so
yeah.
I'm gonna be in the building.
Yeah. Hopefully, get my parents to come and wear some Howard gear. That's gonna be that's gonna be cool. And then, just as a team, like, what I'm looking forward to is just seeing the Bird Pack. Like, I came to a couple games last year. I've seen the energy in the gym. I think we're gonna have a good team. And, I'm ready to turn it up. I think it's gonna be cool.
All right. So we're gonna finish up with a couple of more questions. So here we go. What is something that you would tell your younger self?
I learned so much. I think what I would tell myself is to research your obstacles. You got to know what you're up against in anything in life. You got to know what you're up against to beat it. You know what I mean? I think the first 2 times that I went through my ACL injuries, I didn't really know what to expect, or I wasn't up to the challenge, and I didn't know all the little things that go into recovering from stuff. Like, I didn't know that, you got to make sure you ice your body every day. You got to make sure you stretch. You got to make sure, you get treatment. You got to make sure you get the right amount of sleep. Like, you're working on your landing, you're changing direction, you're strengthening both legs. Like, there were so many things that I picked up over the course that I think could have helped me had I known before I even started the process. So I would say research your obstacles so that you know how to attack it.
I never heard that one before. I like it though. Research your obstacles.
Yeah.
That's dope. And then, all right, this is my last one. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want to be remembered as a good person, first and foremost. But I just want to be remembered as a fighter. You know what I mean? I think you can say whatever you want about the basketball. We come from an area where everybody plays basketball at a pretty high level. And I feel like what separates me is everything that I did go through and everything that I learned about it. I learned about myself, learned about, obstacles that I think are going to help me in life. But I just want to be remembered as a fighter, somebody that didn't give up on themselves and that didn't give up on the things that are around them. I think that's what I like to be remembered as.
All right. Well, that's all the questions that I have. Do you have anything?
I'm good, bro. I appreciate you for having me.
Appreciate you, for coming on, and make sure y'all like, subscribe, comment, follow, all of that.
Yeah.
Click the whatever down there in the bio. Click that. Follow him, and I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and we're gonna keep this thing going. Shout out my cameraman behind the scenes back there. We locked, man.
Yes,
but like I said, this is another episode of After the Ball Deflates, and just whatever you all doing out there, no matter what you're going through, keep pushing. Research your obstacles.
Research your obstacles.
Stay 10 toes down and keep God first.
Yes,
So with that being said, you're done.
Appreciate you, boss.